Hi Vinyl Community, it's Mike here, and today's video is a little bit different. And it all stems from a conversation I had with some friends a couple of weeks ago. Now these friends are not record collectors, but they were asking me about my record collection, and in particular saying, well, what type of music do you listen to? What's actually in your collection? And this got me thinking, wouldn't it be nice if I had a compilation album of my record collection that I give to people and say, hey, listen to this. This is the sort of stuff that I listen to. So this is what I've done in this video. I've taken 12 tracks that I think sort of represent the breadth of the music that I listen to, the different genres, the different types of music that I listen to. And I've sort of highlighted probably the ones that I have the most of. So, you know, there's all sorts of weird and wonderful music that I have in my collection, but this is a sort of the mainstays, really, the type of music that I really go for. So I'll start off with a bit of punk, because, you know, if you watch my channel, you know that I like punk, particularly sort of punk from the 70s. I like a lot of British punk. I like Australian punk as well, and I've got a lot of singles. And so the first one is a punk single, and it's from Australia. And it's my favourite punk song of all times. You know, if I was pushed to say, what's the best punk single of all times, I would say this one. And there it is. It's by the Saints, and it's This Perfect Day on the Harvest label from 1977. You know, it's an absolutely marvellous song. It is, you know, for me, it's a perfect sort of 1970s punk song. And I don't think it's been done better. There are a lot of other really great ones out there, but This Perfect Day is the perfect punk single. And it's on an album as well. It's on the Saints' second album, which is this one, Eternally Yours. And you know, this is a fantastic album. There's the band there at the back. And actually, just looking at the picture there, that I was watching Ben Rankin's the other day, and he was talking about Australian punk, and he was saying the thing about the Saints is that they never really look like punks, and I think he's right. You know, looking at those guys, you wouldn't immediately say, yeah, this is a punk rock album, but it's punk and it's brilliant, and that's the Saints. So that's the first one. A bit of punk in my collection. Now, my second choice, it kind of represents the fact that there's music, there's sort of bands and artists that maybe I didn't pick up on initially, and then sort of later on I discover them and they become favourites of mine. And that's particularly the case with this next band, and it's Saint Etienne. And I've chosen a track from this album. This is an album from 2012 called Words and Music, and I think it's an absolutely wonderful album. And for those of you who don't know, they're sort of it's electronic dance music, really, and you know, they're absolutely wonderful. I mean, they started in the early 90s, and it wasn't until, you know, probably nearly 10 years later that I kind of discovered, you know, just how brilliant Saint Etienne are. So, you know, over the years I've caught up on their back catalogue, and yeah, absolutely brilliant. So this album's got all sorts of really lovely tracks on. I mean, I really like the opening track on this, Over the Border. Haunted Jukebox, the final track, is brilliant as well. When I Was 17, that's a great track. But the one that I've gone for is it's 1, 2, 3, fourth track on side 2, and that's sort of DJ. And DJ, I think it kind of epitomises Saint Etienne at this point in their career. And I love the cover. I love the cover of this album. So as you can see, it's a London street map, but the street names have been replaced with various musical references. So there you go, Words of Music by Saint Etienne, and the track is DJ. So that's number 2. Now, I'm a real sucker for great female vocals as well, and I've got so many records by female artists, and I thought I'd have to show, at least one. And this is one of the greatest British artists from the 1990s, 2000s, and that's J Harvey. And the track that I've chosen is from this wonderful album from 2000, Stories from the City, Stories from the Sea, and yeah, that is there. And I've chosen the final track on side two, and that track is We Float. I just absolutely love it. I think her vocals on that particular track are absolutely superb, and yeah, it was a hard choice. I thought, well, I'll put some PJ Harvey in, and there's so many songs I could have put in, but as I say, in the end, I went for We Float. And there's also a lovely version of it on the Stories from the City, Stories from the Sea demos as well. So it would be a toss-up between the original on the album and the demo here. Which version I'd put on my compilation album. Right, now back in the early 70s, when I was still at school, myself and my mates were really, really into progressive rock. So, we liked all the big names. We liked Yes, we liked Barclay James Harvest. We were Pink Floyd fans, but we were also Genesis fans. And, Genesis, one of my favourite bands, up until Peter Gabriel left, Lamb Lies Down on Broadway, of course, his last album. I think they're absolutely superb. And the two albums following that aren't bad either. A Trick of the Tail and Wind and Wuthering. But after that, me and Genesis sort of parted ways. But I still listen to the lovely sort of early 70s Genesis, and Peter Gabriel's sort of lyrically has always been absolutely spot on, absolutely superb. And I've gone for a track from the 1972 album, which is Foxtrot, and I'll show you the whole thing. There you go, that's the iconic cover. And I've gone for the track Can Utility in the Coastliners. And in case you don't know, the track is actually based on the story of King Canute. And King Canute was early 11th century king. He was king of England, king of Denmark, king of Norway, and I think a bit of Sweden as well at his height. And his kingdom was known sometimes as the North Sea Empire. Anyway, the story of King Canute, as you probably know, is that he was demonstrating, the limits to the power of monarchs. So, at the time he was this monarch. He was powerful. He had this little empire based around the North Sea. So he had his throne taken down to the coast, and while his subjects were watching, he commanded the sea not to encroach upon his land. And of course, the tide came in, Canute got wet, and that's the story. And there are kind of two versions of this. One of them, in one version, is quite foolish. That the idea is that he really thought that he could command the waves to not encroach upon his lands. But the other version, it's him demonstrating that he wasn't all powerful, and that the only all powerful king was Lord God Almighty. So there you go. And so Can Utility, it's a bit of a pun on Canute's name, and of course the coastliners will be his subjects who were there lining the coast, watching what Canute was up to. So that's it. Can Utility in the Coastliners. But this is a superb album. Watch of the Skies, I could have gone for that one. Timetable, just about any track on here I could have gone for, but I've gone for Can Utility and the Coastliners. That's a bit of prog that's in my collection. Right, a bit of sort of more kind of classic rock, really. And one of my all-time favourite musicians. And I didn't actually get to see this guy until about 10 years ago, when he was touring the UK with his band Promise of the Real. And of course it's Neil Young. And I've gone for the 1969 album. That's Neil Young with Crazy Horse. And I always preferred Neil Young with Crazy Horse. You know, I think, you know, the music is a lot sort of heavier than maybe a lot of his solo albums, particularly, you know, in the early 70s. And this is the wonderful album. Everybody Knows This Is Nowhere. And I could have gone with the opening track here, Cinnamon Girl. I really, really love that. But in the end, I went for a 10-minute classic that finishes off side two. Another song about a girl. This is a Cowgirl in the Sand, and it's just one of those songs. One of those songs I never tire of hearing it, and so, you know, representing a bit of more sort of classic rock, really. It's Neil Young with Crazy Horse from Everybody Knows This Is Nowhere and Cowgirl in the Sand. Right, so in about sort of 85, 86, 87, I don't know, sort of late 80s, early 90s, I really got into more sort of international music, and in particular sort of music from Africa. And at the time, Radio 1 in the UK, certain DJs played quite a lot of this sort of music, and I really, you know, I really got into it big time. And I've chosen an album here and a track from 1988, and it's an artist and a band from Mali, and it's Zani, Diabate and the Super Jacqueline Band, and this is the self-titled album. And as I say, Zani Diabate was from Mali. He's a kora player, guitarist. He also played the balafon, and he's a vocalist as well. And he was working for the Mali National Ballet, and he put this band together when he was with the ballet. And this is lovely music. It's high life. It's, you know, lovely sort of, you know, West African music, really. And, you know, I really love this album and this type of music. And in recent years, I've been getting more and more sort of back into international music, particularly a lot of North African stuff, but also stuff from, you know, the world more sort of widely. But anyway, the track I've gone for here is the opening track, and it's a track called Super Jacqueline, and yeah, it's just lovely, you know, sort of West African high life. It's a joyous sound, you know, as so many of these African albums are. So that represents, you know, the international music, particularly the African music that I've got in my collection. Now, a real sort of, you know, love of mine, you know, musically, is folk music, and particularly, you know, the folk rock scene of the you know, very late 60s, early 70s, and I had to choose a song that I think sort of represents that kind of music, and I've gone for the wonderful Sandy Denny. You know, I couldn't really get past Sandy Denny, you know, as somebody to represent my love of this sort of folk music. And this is her album from 1971, The North Star Grassman and the Raven. And the title track on this is absolutely superb. One of my all-time favourites. But the track I've actually gone for, again, it's the opening track on side one, and it's Late November. And the reason I've gone for this one is that I think it sort of epitomises, you know, Sandy Denny's sort of virtuosity, really. You know, her singing is absolutely superb. I mean, quite honestly, you know, there's all sorts of tracks I could have chosen from here. As I say, this is the title track. Next Time Around, or the North Star Grassman and the Raven, of course. Richard Wilbur, that's another nice one. And she was she's a great singer. Died much too young, and greatly missed. And that's it. So Late November by Sandy Denny from the North Star Grassman and the Ravens, and that's my representation of the folk music in my collection. Right, so next up, I've got quite a few jazz albums, and I was wondering, well, what shall I do here? What shall I go for? And I thought I'd go for something that's a little bit unusual, and this is an EP from a jazz collective, and the album's from 2020, and the band are called Pulp, and the EP is called Mutual Attraction Volume 1. And they're excellent musicians, these people. Absolutely brilliant. I don't really know very much about them, and this is the only recorded stuff I've got by them. And there are 3 tracks, and the tracks are sort of composed by Alice Coltrane, Pharaoh Sanders, and Sun Ra and his orchestra. So the track I've gone for is the one track on side A of this EP, and it's Journey in Satya Dananda, and it's an Alice Coltrane composition, and it's absolutely lovely, and I think it represents the sort of jazz that I really like. The more sort of like chilled out stuff, and as I say, this is from a band from Seattle called High Pulp, and they're a sort of jazz collective. So that's a jazz in my collection. Now, something else that you probably, if you watch my channel, you probably know about is that I love to talk about bands from my hometown, from Leeds, and particularly I like to talk about the art school punk of the early 1980s. Now, the 2 big names, I suppose, from the art school punk scene or post-punk, I suppose, in Leeds would be Gang of Four and the Mekons. But there was a third band who were very much associated with, particularly with the Mekons as well, and that's this band. And this is their only album. So it's Delta 5, and it's See the Whirl. And it's from 1981, is it? Yes, 1981. And there you go. So, the strange thing is that Delta 5 and Mekons, that they sometimes, their members were interchangeable. And, they might play gigs where members of the other band were actually sort of standing in the for the band here, or sort of in addition to the band, and they sometimes, the Mekons and Delta 5 will call themselves Mekon Delta. I don't think they ever recorded anything. I'm sure they didn't record anything under that name, but they certainly performed on this. So you've got, it says Alan on guitars, Ross on bass and vocals, Beth and bass and vocals, Jules guitar and vocals, and Kelv, who plays the drums, and I suppose they kind of sound a little bit like the Au Pairs. I think certainly if you like the Au Pairs, that you would like Delta 5, and the song that I've chosen for this is a track called Journey, and it's the opening track on side 2, and the the bass and the vocals on this are just absolutely superb, and it's very much sort of kind of reminiscent, I think, of the au pairs in many ways. So that's sort of representing my love of Leeds bands, particularly Leeds bands of this particular vintage. So there you go, Delta 5. Right. So that's 9. There's 3 to go for this compilation. And I also, I've got a real soft spot for a bit of French 60s pop music. Particularly the the Yeye girls, and so I've not gone for Françoise Hardy or France Gall, anybody like that. I've gone for this person. This is Jacqueline Taieb, and this is a compilation. It's called Lolita Chick 68, and the reason I've gone for her because she's got something. There's something extra. She's got another string to her bow. She composed tracks as well as being a singer, and she has sort of quite a sort of freak beaty sound, which I really like. But it's still very much sort of it's that kind of French sort of yeye style as well. And the track I've gone for is a single. I think it was her debut single from 1967, and it's the first track on side 1, and C'est heures du matin, 7 a.m. and there's actually an English version of it that actually closes the album as well. But I really prefer the French version. It sounds a lot better. I think with the English version, the lyrics are sort of shoehorned into the song a little bit, which kind of detracts from it just a little bit. I mean, it's still a great song, but it's got that garagey freak beat sort of sound to it, and so Jacqueline Taieb and 7 heures du matin is my representative for my love of 60s French pop music. Right. Reggae. And again, in the 1970s, and I was really into reggae music, and there was a record store in the town where I lived at the time in the UK, and he was very much into reggae, and he would stock all sorts of wonderful stuff, and he was really helpful, and you could go into his shop and you could listen to some of the stuff, and and so I really got into reggae in the sort of early to mid 70s, and that's carried on to this day really. So I've gone for an absolutely classic album from 1977, and this is an album recorded at Joe Gibbs' studio, 2/7 Clash by Culture, and this is probably my favourite reggae album of all time. It's absolutely wonderful, and Joseph Hill's vocals are really, really good on this album, and you've got all sorts of guests on here. Particularly you've got who have we got on here? I think we've got Robbie Shakespeare on here. Yeah, Robbie Shakespeare's on here, and Sly Dunbar as well. And it's a real, as I say, it's a really, really lovely sort of reggae album, and I could have gone for any track here. I was going to go for Black Star Line, I Must Come, but then I changed my mind at the last moment, and I thought, call in Rastafari, which is the opening track on side 1. So my love of reggae is represented by Culture from the album 2/7 Clash. And finally, I had to get these guys in. my favourite sort of contemporary band, a bit of DIY punk from a duo, a married couple, Holly and David, and it's the brilliant Lovely Eggs. And this is their album Cobb Dominoes, and it's from 2011. And this is their masterpiece, I think. Although, in my opinion, they haven't done a bad album, over the years. They've released probably about 10 albums now, and they're all absolutely wonderful. But this one really kind of epitomises their very sort of DIY sound. The fact that a song might only last 45 seconds, if that's how it takes them, or it could last 4 minutes, and so Minibus, the opening track on this, it is one of my all-time favourites, and then it goes on to the track that's really their anthem, I suppose, their signature tune, and it's People Are Twats, and I've talked about that one before, and it's really quite funny. It's it's a song that kind of unites the fans, I suppose, but I've gone for Don't Look at Me, I Don't Like It, and it's just so funny, and it's lovely sort of DIY punk. And there they are. I think they're on Morecambe Beach in Lancashire, because it's very muddy. And Morecambe is known for its mud. When the tide comes out, you don't get lovely golden sands. You get lots of brown mud. But there you go. So that's the 12th one. So that's me just sort of thinking out loud, really. If I was to do a compilation album of my record collection showcasing the sort of stuff that I listen to, what would I put on it? And I've decided to put those 12 tracks on. I'm sure if I did it another day, I would go for 12 completely different tracks. But, this will have to do for the time being, and I'm probably not going to do it again. So, anyway, let me know in the comments, what would be your compilation, and what would be your soundtrack to your record collection? Or better still, why don't you do a video about it? Anyway, until next time, I'll see you. Bye bye.